Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Monthly Blend, a monthly video podcast brought to you by Next, powered by Shulman Rogers and the Big Idea Connectpreneur community. I'm Tien, Wong, founder and host of the Connectpreneur community, which is a global community of over 25,000 investors, founders, and business leaders from around the world. Anthony and I, my co-host, started the Monthly Blend last year as a way to bring awareness to the awesomeness of the DC region. We have so many things going on. And we are a big region. So as you guys know, it's Maryland, Virginia, DC. So our geographic coverage is from Baltimore down to the DC region. And as you all know, there's a lot of different constituents, governmental agencies, and resources and potential roadblocks to getting entrepreneurs to work together and getting investors to do more in the region. So we've had awesome guests, and you guys can subscribe at www.themonthlyblend.com. And today we have an awesome group of business leaders in the DC region. We have the three founders, or three co-hosts rather, of DC Startup Week, which is in its 6th year. And we're thrilled to have Seema Alexander, Rachel Kretzky, and Corey Lawrence joining us. And would love to have you guys self-introduce, starting with Seema, and then we'll turn it over to Anthony for some questions, and then I'll have a few. And I hope everybody can come to this awesome event. It's incredibly inspiring. They are going to be doing in-person as well as virtual events. So it's one of the most exciting events of the year, and we're thrilled to have you guys on. Seema, thanks for joining.
Yeah, and just a quick thing, October 18th to 22nd. So this is next week. So please register right away. We'll give you that information in a second. So thank you, Anthony and Tien, for having us here. My name is Seema Alexander, as you mentioned. I'm the founder of Disruptive.CEO. So it's a strategic repositioning advisory firm. Basically, I work with female founders and service-based organizations to help position themselves in the market. So they're uniquely positioned, moving from a commodity to a much more expert brand. I also run one of the only service-based accelerators out there for female entrepreneurs. It's called Disruptive Female CEO Business Growth Accelerator. So I've been involved with DC Startup Week just about 3 years ago. When Rachel and Corey can speak, they'll tell you all about the history. Started off as a speaker, and the last 2 years have been heavily involved in the strategy and the growth. So we'll get into much more detail in a few minutes, but excited to be here.
Thank you, Seema. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Tien. Hi, Anthony. Thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Rachel Kretzky. I am the founder and CEO of UPace. We're the #1 mobile app platform for community rec centers all around member engagement and retention. I've also been the lead organizer for DC Startup Week over the past couple years, from almost its inception to where we're at today, of a community of over 10,000 entrepreneurs. So we're so excited that next week on October 18th to 22nd is DC Startup Week. Time has flown this year, but we're excited to bring people together virtually again, as well as in person throughout the week.
Terrific. And last but not least, Corey.
Hi guys, my name is Corey Lawrence. I am one of the co-organizers of DC Startup Week. I've been involved for about 4 years. It's been an amazing ride. I head up everything marketing, tech, and community engagement for DC Startup Week. And then I'm also the co-founder of IRL Agency. We're a creative marketing and events agency based in DC, working with hospitality and lifestyle brands.
Oh, great. And thank you so much. And thank you guys for joining us. And to kick things off, let me turn it over to my co-host, Anthony Millin.
Great. Thank you, Tien. So as Tien mentioned, I'm Anthony Millin. I am the founder and chair of Next, powered by Shulman Rogers. And we are so excited to have Rachel and Corey and Seema with us today. So where I'd like to start today is just a little bit of the history, and then we'll kind of get into some of the current and future plans for DC Startup Week. But to start off with, I'd love to hear about DC Startup Week and its kind of mission and where it fits within the ecosystem and what it is. We've kind of talked about in telling people it's coming up next week, but just kind of what it is and its mission within our ecosystem here. Maybe Rachel, I'll ask you to start.
Of course. So DC Startup Week, we are a 5-day event every single year where we bring together more than a conference. It's a celebration of the ecosystem here in DC to connect entrepreneurs together, to learn from one another, support one another, And these 5 days are jam-packed full of educational sessions, over 100, you name it, networking, of panels, fireside chats, workshops, of really helping entrepreneurs be able to learn from one another. And one of the best things, in my opinion, about DC Startup Week is that it spans across founders at different stages. So someone who has an idea or early stage to growth stage founders, to later stage founders, of supporting one another, whether it's not giving back their time of mentorship or sharing their insights or lessons learned, but also doing that one-on-one connections throughout the whole week. And what we've really learned throughout the many years of doing DC Startup Week over the last 6 years is that power of connection and that power of community. And that's really what has stemmed our mission about connecting entrepreneurs together here in the DMV region, as well as continuing educational programming beyond the 5 days. So we also strive to do monthly events and programming throughout the year, whether that's virtual or in person, to also continue that education and continue that mission, as we find it so important that for an entrepreneur to succeed is really having that tribe and that community behind you. And that's what we're all about at DC Startup Week, building that up and empowering founders to be able to get to that next level of entrepreneurship.
Great, thank you. And it is, like Tien said, one of my favorite weeks in the entrepreneurial world of DC. So I am so excited that it's here again. In terms of pulling something like this together and COVID, we've spoken on a number of our shows that Tien have done in terms of the impact on different events, different organizations with respect to COVID, both kind of challenges and silver linings. And Corey, I'd love to hear just kind of your experience over the last couple of years with DC Startup Week, some of those challenges that you've had to overcome and some of the things that you've learned from having to work in this new way.
Yeah, absolutely. So before pre-COVID, as we call it, we were all in person. So again, like Rachel said, we really strive to help connect the entire entrepreneurial community together. And something that was really cool about DC Startup Week pre-COVID was we were actually at 24 different venues across the city in 2019. So we were at everywhere from Google to AARP to the different co-working spaces. And as entrepreneurs, we don't always get access to those places, or we don't get to see all the different spaces of the entrepreneurial community. So pre-COVID, that was kind of a cool thing. Now, obviously, come 2020, that was completely different. COVID hit, and we were in our lockdown situation, and so we had to completely pivot to virtual. And what we found was that going virtual made DC Startup Week a bit more accessible. It allowed, we got messages from people after we went virtual saying, look, I'm a stay-at-home mom, or I, work a 9 to 5 and I'm not able to come to DC Startup Week in-person events. But since we made it virtual, keep this virtual because now I can come. And so, we had to sacrifice that in-person, networking opportunity in 2020, but it did open up opportunities to bring more people into the community. And that is something that we really strive for at DC Startup Week, is that inclusive, welcoming kind of community.
I hear often about that unique aspect in DC around connections and how people really do find that compared to other ecosystems, the strong desire that people have to connect in this area. Seema, I'd love to hear a little bit from you on kind of as you looking forward now with DC Startup Week, like any business that continues to grow and evolve, some of the things you kind of see happening and hope to see happening with DC Startup Week as a platform as we look forward.
Yeah, this has been an ongoing conversation that Rachel, Corey, and I have had. And actually this year was incredible, not only for the outreach, what Corey was saying with additional people coming into the ecosystem, but it was a year of market research. And I think a lot of companies and businesses have really taken the time to be able to focus on what is it the community is looking for, right? Really from an organization like us, and how can we add more value into the ecosystem? So I think obviously this year we're doing a hybrid situation where we have most of our content still virtual. It is something that we're going to consider to do every year going forward. But we will start to bring back in-person events through, long form content. We will look into monthly content. We're also looking into a membership platform at a nominal rate where we can really bring in, valuable discounts for our startups, early stage startups, valuable content, and networking, So I think there is such an opportunity to continue to grow the ecosystem, get very targeted in some of the core content, bring in the right experts and the founders to inspire and mentor. It's almost like sky's the limit, but one of the key other parts is we're getting a lot of ecosystem partners involved, right? And I think more and more we can do that, the more and more, our goal is to help reposition the area, the DMV, into really this true entrepreneurial hub. And it takes a village. And I think part of this is building that community, building those partnerships, and really being able to support the entrepreneurs. That is our core mission. So that's what I would share.
And then this we'll kind of have each of you answer is you kind of talk about the ecosystem. How have you, as you've looked at it through the prism that you've had the advantage of looking at it, how would you say you've seen the ecosystem evolve itself since you first started working with DC Startup Week, when you look at the DC region as an entrepreneurial center? I'd love to, Corey, maybe we could start with you and then go to Rachel and to Seema, just what you've kind of noticed most in terms of the evolution of the startup ecosystem in this area.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of my favorite things, just from my personal experience with the actual conference of DC Startup Week, is just seeing all the connections that are made and the changes, the impact that this organization has on the entrepreneurial community, and seeing people meeting their co-founders, meeting different people in the ecosystem, and it changing their business, and seeing how, this drive and this hunger for meeting up and meeting and networking in person, what that can create.
And one thing just to add to that, I think it's been really wonderful to see like how that ecosystem has changed or evolved. Definitely 6 years ago when we started, the ecosystem was different. It was a little bit smaller. There was different, players or support system in place. And we've seen it grow. And just for our community, going from, just a few handful from that first year to all of a sudden to now over 10,000 within our community within 6 years. It's just how much spark of innovation and spark of entrepreneurship has grown in the DMV ecosystem. And there's more providers, whether that's, investors at different stages here, more support system coming in, could be from government funding or organizations like 1863 Ventures, QED, all these other places that have now come up that are really putting that time and effort to support that community here in the DMV. And I think that's something wonderful that we've seen shifted over the last couple of years, of people really looking at how amazing the founders are here in DC. And then it goes beyond just kind of governmental type of startups or government contractors that are just looking for the government, that we have amazing SaaS companies or brick and mortar stores or service space, that there really is that true power in that DMV founder and that DMV startups.
One thing I would add to that, I was gone from the DMV for almost 17 years. I was in New York after college. And so about 4 years ago, when my husband and I moved back with the family, we were so impressed by the growth. I mean, look at Northern Virginia right now. Look at like Data Center Alley. We're following the whole Amazon story because they were supposed to come to Long Island City. And of course, HQ2 ended up in Virginia. And then you look at Maryland and what a biotech hub it's become and where the plans are, speaking to the people at like Economic Development Agency and others. And then you look at DC and it's like a diverse group of a lot of different, both it's tech, but there's a lot of service providers also. So it's like a mixed sort of opportunity of like, here's a moment in time where, there's a lot of activity happening within the ecosystem, but the reality is the investors they're here, but they're much more conservative, right? Compared to other areas in the country even. So we're part of what we're trying to do is, provide those tools and resources and that connectivity. So the investment side of things, and Tien, I know this is sort of your world really, right? And Anthony's like really starts to come in and is less conservative, and people are more trusting in that early stage process as they are in some of the other areas. So that's what I would share.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. And now I am going to hand it over to Tien.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I have a question because I'm in the organization of events business as well, but you guys have done awesome. And I have a question. How are you able to deliver such a successful and popular pop-up event, because it's a 5-day pop-up annually? What are some of the things that you've done to get to that level? Maybe we'll start with Rachel.
Yeah. So, I think all of us, we're entrepreneurial. So we understand that the knit and the grit that it takes to kind of put on this event. And every year it's absolute craziness, like the 3 months leading up to DC Startup Week. So I think one of it's just embracing the craziness, embracing how large of the scale. So 100 plus events over 5 days. It's a big undertaking every year, but I think that's why we've been able to put it on. It has so much variety of content at different ages and different types of entrepreneurs at different stages or different types of industries that has led it to be so successful. I think really looking at that strategy of that content and what that looks like, as well as like our communication. Corey really can talk about like the marketing and the social media and how that affects us to be able to kind of put on this event. But it's definitely that we try to engage that community throughout the year of really with a lot of newsletters and content of supporting other community builders and organizations of their programming or events that they put on. We try to be that hub or that spot where people can go to our newsletter to find access to what's happening, both free and paid opportunities. So that way we can get those events in front of the entrepreneurs of DC Startup Week. So that way throughout the year, they have more programming to learn and network and to connect with one another. So that's a huge piece that we strive to do, is to be a resource throughout the year beyond the 5 days. But yeah, I know Corey could talk a little bit more to that as well.
Yeah, Corey, the marketing is fantastic. The graphics are awesome. I mean, I'm sure that has a lot to do with getting people excited to attend and participate, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that some of the success of DC Startup Week just boils down to simply we're solving a problem, right? There's a real need in the community for one space where you can all come together, whether you're a food truck owner or a freelancer, all the way up to owning a 10 million, $100 million company and startup. And being able to access people, like Anthony with who, for lawyer services or accountants, or finding a co-founder, looking for your developer to help you develop your app, whatever it might be. We're really solving that problem. And then whenever you couple that on the marketing side with a solid brand and a solid brand identity, then I think it really helps people resonate with DC Startup Week and the mission behind it.
Right. And Seema, how many startup weeks are there around the country? And is the DC Startup Week are we the best one? Or, how are you guys working together with these other groups around the country? And do entrepreneurs ask for connectivity to other regions, or is each startup week, siloed by geography?
I think one of the things is that each startup week kind of operates on their own. But I think one of the beauties of that, for example, Startup San Diego, they have a startup week as well. They actually transitioned it to be a startup month. And, being able to connect with them of, lessons learned, what have they found to work or not work, and just kind of brainstorm together. So I think that's one way that we're collaborative in that sense of different startup weeks, but everyone does operate on their own. But we kind of look at other startup weeks like Denver Startup Week for, inspiration. They have, I think, over probably 10,000, attendees throughout the year, seeing what they're doing with COVID protocols and standards. So it's been really interesting to kind of watch that and see that for us as organizers as well. But it would be great, for more startup weeks to be able to collaborate more together, especially as everyone's putting on really great content, if that's virtual. So that would definitely be something that we would be open to. We just haven't seen it happen just yet.
Right. And Corey, you guys have all talked about impact and connectivity and doing great things and providing resources and filling these really important needs for our entrepreneurs. How do you guys keep that continuity from year to year? You have this great thing. Everyone is all excited after the week. I mean, do they have to wait till next year to get re-excited, or are there things that you're doing to keep everybody, excited and communicated with?
Sure. Yeah. So we try to keep consistent with at least 1 to 2 events per month. Whenever we first went into our lockdown situation, for instance, we saw, obviously a true need. Everyone was was so nervous about what was going on and what was going to happen to their businesses. So Rachel and I and Seema came together. We decided we were going to do one virtual event at least a week for at least 3 months. So that was kind of a special case, but we have at least one content session a month. We do coffee chats. They're actually really fun. You pull a bunch of entrepreneurs together and we mind meld. We help solve each other's problems. We say, hey, I'm looking for, a marketing agency, or hey, I'm looking for a lawyer, or hey, I've got this problem. How do I solve this? And it's really powerful to see the connections that are made even over Zoom during these coffee chats. Pre-COVID, we had an event series called Start Up Your Morning. We would love to start that up again. It's really fun, really great conversations. We did that at Convene in downtown DC in person. So coming up, future plans, like Seema said, we're looking to launch some kind of online community or membership so that we can keep this continuity. And we're definitely going to keep the monthly events going forward.
That's awesome. I have a marketing idea for you guys. Why don't we change the name to DC Startup Year?
Yeah.
Because you guys are doing stuff every month, every week. And that's really great news. Okay, so next week, we've got a big event for the audience. Seema, can you highlight some of the key speakers or key events? What do you think is going to stand out about this year's DC Startup Week?
I had a feeling you were going to ask me that. It's really tough because we have so many great speakers. The one thing I think, especially gone virtual, there's so much more accessibility, and founders and experts all say yes for the most part, which is incredible. So even to kick off our event, we have the State of Entrepreneurship, Victor Hotchkins, who's the president of the EDA in Fairfax, who's very integral in the whole Amazon deal. And otherwise, Allison Redpath, she is the director of entrepreneurship for Maryland, and also one of the founders of Citrine Angels. And then with them, we have Melissa Bradley, who's the founder of 1863 Ventures, all kind of talking about, all right, now it's pre-COVID or sort of post-COVID. What does the state look like? And specifically around the resources around the DMV to help entrepreneurs in general. We have Ask Your Expert talks throughout the week, which I would love for people to come. This is free, really expensive free advice. I'll just say Anthony is one of our experts. I think it's on Monday. It's legal advice. If you have startup legal advice, you have one of the top startup lawyers there to, provide that information for you. We have, business growth strategy, social media. We have lots of different Ask Your Experts throughout the week. We have topics from VIP Day. I'm going to just put a little plug here. We have incredible. So what we tried to do is, what was the most COVID, friendly opportunity to have a good group of people, up to about 150 to 200. We found a great venue at the Eaton Hotel that has a lot of space, and it can be socially distanced and otherwise. And we have COVID protocols in place. To start off the day in terms of keynote, we have Rick Rudman, who's the CEO of Curbio, and he's a serial entrepreneur, has had great success over the years. So that's going to be really fun. And we have 2 tracks. So we have the early stage track and the growth stage track on that day. Tien, you are also, we're excited that you're moderating a conversation, a fireside chat with Jeff Grass, the CEO of Hungry, talking about his journey, but how they raised millions, especially as they pivoted through the COVID craziness. Anthony is also going to be sharing some great stuff in terms of his serial entrepreneurship career, and obviously some legal tips along the way. We have an incredible, I just want to keep going. We have part of this.
Oh, this is awesome, Seema. I mean, congratulations. You guys this is amazing. I'm so excited to participate and really thank you. And, just kind of in closing, I'd love for Rachel and Corey, just, do you guys have any final thoughts for our audience? Any kind of special message you want to send them, or aside from register now, sign up now, and see you there. But you have anything else to add?
I just wanted to say, don't miss out on the opportunity. This conference happens once a year. And again, we have our monthly events, but this is kind of the culmination of all of that. It's a really great opportunity to network. And I personally would love to meet everyone who's listening in right now, network and get to know you and find out ways that I can help support your business, and that DC Startup Week can help support your business.
Well, that's great. Rachel, you have the last word.
Amazing. So, just in addition to that, our theme this year is around it's your time, and kind of to fill in the blank. It's your time to scale. It's your time to grow, and to really come to DC Startup Week with that in mind and kind of set that intention. So as you're looking at 100+ events throughout the week, to help you kind of foster and build your schedule with that, and kind of think through that as you attend sessions like Ask Your Expert, or what advice do you need to know, or what do you need to learn in order to help your business get to that next level, and to look at myself, Corey, and Seema as resources for you. If you need help with your startup or a connection, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Just info@dcstartupweek.org, as we want to support you just beyond that 5 days. We want to support you throughout the year. So please let us know how we could be helpful. That's our goal, and that's our mission here. So we're so excited to be here today. So thank you so much, Anthony and Tien, for having us. We're so excited to have you guys next week and be in touch throughout the week. And everyone who's listening in, we hope to meet you or see you virtually or in person.
Well, thank you so much, guys. And we appreciate everything you're doing. Congratulations on a great event. Good luck next week. I can't wait. I hope everyone signs up and comes. And with that, let me turn it back over to Anthony.
Great. Yeah, I just want to add my thank yous to Rachel and Corey and Seema for joining us today. All three of you are real inspiration, and thank you for all of your leadership and everything that you're doing to drive this ecosystem forward and to help connect all of the different participants in our ecosystem to each other. And we're at Next absolutely honored and thrilled to be part of DC Startup Week, and look forward to seeing everyone there next week.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
You guys.
Thank you.